Hi, I'm Pat Manning. I want to talk to you about this. This is an ignition actuator, goes in the steering column, the tilt steering column, on my 1987 Ford F250. These things break. This one broke a few years ago, and I repaired it while it was still in the steering column instead of pulling it out and fixing it. Well, a couple of weeks ago, it broke here again. When these things break, you can't use the key to start your vehicle or turn it off. So, what I decided to do, get on the old click-clack, and a few click-clacks later, I found a brand new one. They're made by Dorman, which reproduces a lot of automotive products. They reproduced this piece brand new. So I ordered one up, and I'll show you where it goes. I'm not going to use this one. Bye-bye. Let's go take a look. There's my 1987 Ford F250 with a 6.9 diesel. Getting the batteries all juiced up. It's been sitting here a couple weeks. And here's our patient. And it's gonna be, you'll have to be patient to fix this patient. The steering column. Part of the dash has to come apart. The ignition switch is down in there. And the actuator is up here. I'll show you where. Instead of going through the whole process of showing you how it was done, I just want to tell you that it can be done. The actuator is up inside here, right behind this, inside this collar, and behind all of this stuff right here, there's several screws. You have to take this portion off. You have to pull out the ignition switch, and all of that stuff a lot of this stuff you can find on YouTube in tutorials, which makes it pretty nice for YouTube to have those things on there. That's how I figured out I can take this apart. There was a guy from 2014 he did a video of how to take this apart, because his was busted too. He had pulled the column out, but you don't have to do it. You can leave it inside, leave it in the truck, but you do have to drop it down after you pull the steering wheel. And he showed that these things can be taken apart. He had to figure it out because he couldn't find anybody on YouTube that had done it. So he figured it out, and he shot video of the whole thing, which was really nice of him. But once you get this collar off, you have to get inside here, and there's two pins, one here and one on the other side. I figured out, I made myself a mini pin puller, and I pulled those pins out, and it takes that whole thing out of there, so you can get that actuator out of there, out of inside here. Once you get the actuator out of there, and this is not an easy process, you got to pay attention and you got to think it through. So once you get the actuator out of here, you have to disconnect the ignition switches, which is down there. And there's a bar that runs from the ignition switch up to the actuator here. And when you pull the old actuator out, you have to punch a little roll pin. And there's a lot of pin punching in there. So be aware of that. Watch for the bouncing springs, because there's a possibility of some springing getting done in here. There are some springs in there. But it's just take your time and think it through. I'm retired, so I have time to do this kind of stuff, which I found out that retirement means that you have time to do stuff that you didn't have time to do before. Once you get the actuator out of there, you have to pull a little roll pin to get this bar that runs down to the ignition switch, which is down in there. Yeah, and you have to put the bar back in the new actuator, and you slide the new actuator back in there. I recommend putting a little grease on it so it moves freely. And you have to put all this stuff back in together in the opposite way you took it out. It can be done, and I put this one together yesterday. We're in the middle of October in 2021. Beautiful, beautiful day. Wow, look at the sky. Airplane flying overhead. Once you get all that stuff back in there, then you can just start reassembling everything. And I'm right close to getting it all done. I just had to put the steering wheel back on. I had to put the steering column back up and put it back in place. Put the steering wheel back on and put the ignition switch in, and I should be good to go. It can be done. You just have to think it through and pay attention to what you're doing. Pay attention to what you're doing and don't rush it. This is Pat Manning reporting from Downeyville, California. Happy fixing.